And you know, so with any luck, we should have Holger and the boys in, maybe for an interview at some stage on the Alternative Nation. In the meantime, let's just make do with this, shall we?
Can. To be able, physically, mentally, morally, legally, or the like, to possess the qualities, qualifications, or resources necessary for the attainment of any end or the accomplishment of any purpose. The specific end or purpose being indicated by the verb which can is joined.
I would describe Can's music as being ultra futuristic and very classic.
I think the essence of Can is that, you know, you can do anything.
I think you don't have to know Can to listen to these remixes. They sound, and for people who don't know Can, it might be interesting. You don't have to know anything. I think that's good.
And it's stretched boundaries and stretched limits.
Holger was sitting on stage with a, you know, he had a shortwave radio and he was picking up the fishing forecast, you know, and broadcasting it over, you know, this sort of funk backing.
One of the facets of Can's music was that it was very minimal. As if every musician almost played the bare minimum they could get away with, and repeatedly. So it created this kind of like relentless repetition, and within the kind of repetition you have slight differences, but it was very minimal. It's really very exciting.
They're actually doing like techno in sort of 76, 77, you know, real electronic dance music.
It's a really good reference point for now because of the way music is, where you've got so many different influences being put into one pot, and I think that's what Can always did. They took influences from rock records, from dance, the kind of dance music you had around at the time, the electronic equipment that you had at the time, also the traditional equipment, and mixed it all up, and the vocals. A kind of mad mishmash of lyrics and stuff. It's always been about experimentation, but they always took experimentation to, in a way that Eno did, where it was still melodic and it was still acceptable, it wasn't too chaotic or mental. For us, it was to try and do it in more of a alternative, left-field, kind of hip-hop beats track, but try and keep the flavour sort of that progressive sound from Can. And that's the challenge, to keep it as true to the original as you can, so you're not, you know, you're not ripping it apart and totally raping the track, but to also reinterpret it, because that's what you've been asked to do.
And we certainly were very, very wild, uncalculable, anarchistically, not necessarily commercial.
Reading about the Sex Pistols, liking them, was the first time I actually heard the word Can.
I think the only thing I remember is the fact that someone had done a 20-minute song.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Which is what we actually remixed, wasn't it?
We did
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, we remixed. So it influences other musicians and doesn't actually influence the mass. Same thing with Can. You can hear so many other influences in there. It's so obvious, but yeah, so bleak. This is so good.
And having a track that was 20 minutes long and change continued all the way through it. The fact that it was all live.
We had this game by playing live that I played a chord and he played a bass to it. I mean, it was all spontaneous. He played a bass to it, which didn't. It changed the harmonical context. You know, it wasn't still that. It wasn't the harmony I played then all of a sudden. Then I interpreted his tone of his bass with a new chord. So he had to change, and that was a very interesting harmonic game, and a lot of really cool ideas that came out.
It was difficult to do because there was no multi-track available. Everything that Can always did, certainly for the first 2 years, was all mixed straight to stereo, so there was no multi-track available at all. So we ended up isolating all the bits of vocals of the tracks we wanted to use, and most of those included the backing track. So we kind of isolated it, turned it into little bits, and kept all the vocals, which was quite a departure from all the other remixes apparently.
And they did the same thing with the harmonies of the line. They just turned them around and they became totally different. It makes it very, very beautiful. It changes the whole mood of something and still keeps the essence. It's very, very tricky.
I don't think my remix relates to Can sounds very much. The only thing that it relates to in their sounds is the fact that we use some of their samples. And then we thought, okay, we've got the strings and we've got the basic arrangement, let's use the vocals, and we popped all the vocals that we liked in the kind of chorus bit. And then when we came up with the verse, I was so pleased about that, because it was something that was actually a kind of the bridge section they had repeatedly all through the track. My idea of it was, because the original was such a kind of minimal, relentless 20 minutes piece, to turn this piece into a 3.5 minutes more single-oriented track.
I've tried to take Can into the 21st century. What I used from the original was pretty much the voice and the backings, which I thought were the most futuristic.
I played that to some people who were Can fans in the 70s, and they were moved. It seems to bring a lot of feelings back to both memories.
I always tried to have emotion in my mixes as well as my music, but it's really impressive to me.
Sonic Youth is a group I really thought they have a lot of similarities when they play live. They're very Can. They have a Can attitude. They have a Can attitude. Of doing something that nobody would do, you know, just to see how it sounds. I mean, slowing down Spoon is really a weird idea.
There was like an organic current going through the group which connected the individuals. It was like a bunch of lunatics let loose on instruments, and they weren't conventional instruments, you know, like the Herman's keyboard sounded like a flying saucer going off half the time, you know. Holger played bass with his gloves. The singers just used to make it up as they went along. The guitarist just sounded like he was playing on the moon. You know, it was just alien funk, really, but like nothing you'd ever heard, and you didn't know where it was going to end up, which was the other exciting thing. They could go anywhere, and they often did. When they did the tracks on the albums, they weren't arranged songs. You know, they'd go in and play for like 50 hours and whittle it down into, you know, a 10-minute track. They had the remix principle on the go, and the word go.
What is a good remix? A good remix is a piece, I would say, you don't even recognize sometimes the origin and the source where it came from. And it's a very good remix, but you can see these people put a lot of own investment into it.
Can, a rather indefinite term applied to various vessels of no great size, now more especially to vessels made of sheet metal for containing liquids, preserves, etc.